Welcome to my studio. I am so happy you're here. I figured this week I would answer some questions. I asked you guys to ask me some questions on Instagram, so I'll be answering those and also probably my most commonly asked question on YouTube. So yeah, let's get started. How are you doing? Thank you so much for asking. I am doing well, and I hope you're doing great too. To be honest, I am just in such a beautiful place in life right now. I am feeling such immense gratitude for all of the wonderful people in my life and our wonderful friends, our supportive family. I feel like we live in such a beautiful place, and I'm just really content and happy. I feel so much purpose with my art too, which is something that I haven't felt in a long time, and yeah, it just brings me so much joy. And that is not to say that I don't have hard days, because I definitely do. I struggle with anxiety sometimes, and everyone has off days, but overall, I'm just really content. My daughter wants to know if you like horses. I love horses. I took care of and rode horses for many, many years growing up. I used to go to the stables every day after school to take care of the horses. We didn't have horses ourselves. I would go to a stable to ride and to take care of the horses, and I have such warm memories of those times. I really miss it a lot. Tips on skin tones with oils? I love this question. My teachers say to mix complements together, so that would mean to mix blue and orange together to create a skin tone, purple and yellow, or red and green. Though I have to be honest and say I don't really use this technique all that much anymore. Personally, I love to build up thin translucent layers to kind of create that beautiful skin-like feel that I love so much. And my favorite colors to create these glazes with would be colors like transparent red oxide or burnt sienna. For the shadows, I love using alizarin crimson. I don't actually think you will really be able to tell in my paintings, but it is always there. And for the deep, deep darks, I will mix in some Payne's Gray, which is a beautiful dark with blue undertones. I use these two colors all the time. They're honestly always on my palette, and I think they might be the only few colors that I've had to replace over the past 2 years because I use them so much. For the midtones, I try not to use colors straight from my palette, although I will usually pick an orangey color as a base color, like the burnt sienna or transparent red oxide like I mentioned earlier, and I will mix in some red or green or blue or yellow to tweak it a little bit to my liking or tweak it to match the source, and that way the colors stay alive. I try not to mix too much white into them because I feel like it kind of flattens the color out, especially when it comes to tones on the face. But if you are going to use white, I would highly suggest getting some Warm White by Gamblin. I love working with warm white, especially in the glazes. It just gives such a beautiful highlight, and it really looks like it's coming towards you on the painting, which, that's what we all want. We're trying to create that volume in the face, and yeah, I think it's one of the best ways to do that, for me personally at least. My personal preference for skin tones is definitely to use mostly warm colors. I love that it makes it feel so alive. My backgrounds are usually painted with cool colors, cool blues, and cool greens, so I love the contrast with the orangey tones, the flush of red on the cheeks, with the cool backgrounds. Although I have to say, there are so many artists that I've seen paint skin tones with really cool and muted colors, and it looks absolutely stunning when they do it, so definitely try it out and see what works for you. I didn't realize that I had so much to say about skin tones, so if you'd like me to make a video about this, I definitely can. I just, I'm not a teacher, and I can only speak from my experience, so I don't want to lead you astray or give you bad advice, so just, try it out for yourself and see what works, I guess. What do you work with beyond being an amazing artist? Thank you so much. I think you're asking what kind of materials I love to use, although if I'm misunderstanding you, please let me know and I'll answer the question the way you intended it. But I would say I am mostly an oil painter. I occasionally start my paintings off with like a drippy layer of acrylics, but oil paint is by far my favorite medium. Most of my oil paint is from Gamblin. I love Gamblin. I think they're a really great brand. I do think my favorite oil paint brand is Charvin. They're just really creamy and beautiful textures, but they're really expensive. I just ordered a couple more tubes of paint by them, and I'm so excited for them to come in. I believe they're actually coming in today, so I can't wait. I use Gamsol as my solvent and Galkyd as my painting medium, mostly. I occasionally try something different, but I always come back to Galkyd. I just really like it. And then for my painting surfaces, I paint on canvas currently. Honestly, all of my paintings are done on canvas, but my preference would really be to be painting on wood panels. I love how smooth they are. I just can't really justify the cost. They're really expensive. Shipping would be really expensive to ship to you guys if you wanted to buy my work because they're quite heavy. So for now, I paint on canvas. I do use modeling paste as one of the first steps in my process to kind of smooth out some of the canvas texture. And also, I guess, add texture at the same time. I love adding some streaks with like a catalyst wedge. I don't really know if that made sense, but I'm planning on releasing a video next week all about my current process. So I'll tell you all about it if you are interested. Oh, and I love charcoal and graphite, although I've kind of been neglecting my drawing supplies lately. Where do you get your art supplies? When I lived in the Netherlands, I used to have an art supply store right around the corner that I used to walk to sometimes, but now that I live in the US, I mostly order my art supplies online from stores like Dick Blick and Jerry's Artorama. I just think they're the most affordable, at least where I live. And then I do have a Michaels really close, so sometimes I get my canvases there. I'll get the level 3 deep cradled canvases that I paint pretty much everything on. Did you have any art experience before starting the mastery program? This is probably my most asked question, and I feel like people don't believe me when I say that I really didn't have much experience at all before starting the mastery program. I took the beginners program by the Milan Art Institute, and that was the first time I ever touched oil paint. The only other art experience I had was that I dabbled with some fluid acrylics when I was in college, like the pour over paintings. I asked my mom to send me some pictures because she has some of my paintings back home in the Netherlands, but I think that was pretty much it. I guess the only other medium that I used was watercolor, and that is actually what prompted me to start looking for an art program. But to take it a step back, I used to draw a lot when I was a child, probably until about the age of 12, and then I created those fluid abstracts when I was in college, mainly to cope with stress. And I feel like I've always kind of done this. I escape into this little dream world where the world goes quiet. I have a tendency to overthink and my thoughts are racing most of the day. So creating is something that feels so sacred to me because I get to disappear, the world goes quiet, and it is such a wonderful feeling. I really think, though, that the puzzle pieces didn't start to fall into place for me until I started taking the mastery program, and they explained how our brains are divided into two halves. The left side of our brain, meaning the analytical side that we use to do our jobs, to make lists, to plan, to even form sentences or work through our issues. And then the right side of our brain, which is our creative side or our intuitive side, and hopefully we can tap into the creative side of our brain to paint and draw and create anything that we would like to create. And I think as a child, I was able to tap into the creative side of my brain much more easily, as most children can. Kids are more balanced and use both halves of their brain for everything they do, and once we start going to school and working, we get really left brain heavy because we use the analytical side of our brain to do our work, to even form sentences, to make lists, to do planning, to do everything really that we need to do in our Western civilization. The right brain kind of gets left behind because we don't use the creative side of our brain all that much anymore. I really hope I'm not butchering this theory, so definitely look it up for yourself. There's so much scientific research on the different halves of your brain, but basically we can use either side of our brain to draw. And because most of us use our left brain, our analytical brain, so much during the day, it's really hard to tap into the creative side of our brain. So we use our left brain to draw something, and your left brain will tell you when you draw an eye, for example, that an eye is almond shaped, and you'll draw a little almond shape. And an eye has eyelashes, and you'll draw little sticks for eyelashes. Whereas if you're able to tap into the right side of your brain, the creative side of your brain, you will start seeing the form of the eyeball, how the eyelids fold over, the curl of your eyelashes, the eye socket. You will see all of these different items, particles, what do you call that? You will see all of this without even really thinking about it, and that's the beauty of the right side of your brain. Once you're in right brain land, as my teachers like to say, the world goes quiet and all you're focused on is your drawing. You're not analyzing with your brain, you're not telling yourself what you're drawing, you're not thinking about what you're drawing, you're just drawing, and it really is such a beautiful place to be in. I would live in right brain land if I could. I think really that is actually the trick to being a good artist, to tap into the right side of your brain. Now I will say, just being able to tap into the right side of your brain is not like a magic bullet, to I guess use an American expression. It won't all of a sudden make you paint these masterpieces if you had zero skills before you started. It is still really important to learn all of the skills, and you can actually use your left brain to build skills. Like for instance, I took some classes on anatomy and that really helped me. And once you tap into the right side of your brain, you'll intuitively use the knowledge that you have gained. I do also think that for some people it is really difficult to tap into the right side of their brain just because they're so used to only ever using the left side of their brain. And to be fair, I can't tap into the right side of my brain at will. Sometimes I'm stuck in my analytical brain and I can't get out. I'm creating bad paintings. I am just not into it that day, and the best thing for me personally to do is to just step back and try again later, because I was not able to reach that place where creating feels good and easy and the way it's supposed to. I feel like this was probably really confusing, so definitely do some research. It is so interesting, and it has really allowed me to understand why sometimes when I paint, things feel easy and it feels right, and I disappear into this peaceful realm where I can just create and the art just flows out of me. Whereas other days I am critiquing myself while I paint, I pick my paintings apart and everything's really difficult and I just can't get it the way that I want it to. And I feel like this truly represents the different halves of your brain. Sometimes I'm stuck in my analytical left brain and I can't do what I would love to do and the things that I can do with my right brain. I hope that's helpful. If you would like me to talk more about this, I definitely can, although I might not be the right person to explain this to you. Any reason you talk so fake? Alright, this is the last question, and this question scares me a little. In a sense, I think you're right. When I listen to my own voice on camera and I'm editing my videos, I can hear the anxiety in my voice, and it still makes me feel really uneasy posting these videos. I actually never intended to be a content creator. I created these videos at the time because I wanted to look back on my journey throughout this art program. I wanted to be able to show my friends and family back home in the Netherlands what I was doing, because I had moved so far away and it was a way to connect with people for me. And little by little, this channel started to grow and we created this little community. I think it is a really beautiful and supportive space most of the time, so I decided I would continue. But I think not being a native English speaker probably doesn't help. I started learning English when I was probably 10 or 11, towards the end of primary school back home in the Netherlands, and obviously they also did not teach me an American accent. If anything, we all spoke more British because England and the Netherlands are so close together. And so when I moved to America 3 years ago, I had to teach myself how to talk like an American person. So maybe that does sound fake. I am honestly not sure. And obviously, I probably mispronounce things or just say things wrong or use expressions in a strange way. It's definitely happened quite a lot, or I misunderstand people. I try to articulate my words so that people can understand what I'm saying, because I also have a tendency to talk at very low volume, and I'm quite soft-spoken naturally, so I definitely get very anxious filming these videos still, even after 2 years of creating videos, and I do hope that maybe in a few months I'll feel more comfortable, but I'm honestly not sure. It is scary and vulnerable posting these videos, but I've learned that it is better to do things scared than to not do them at all. I want to say a big thank you for being here and for even asking me some questions that you wanted to know. I hope that maybe you got to know me a little bit better through this video, and if you have any more questions, you can definitely drop them down below. I love to talk to you guys. So I think that was all, and next week I will show you my process. I'm hoping to create a painting from start to finish in just about 8 days, which honestly is a lot faster than I usually do because I have a tendency to let layers sit for a little while. So I'm gonna try my hardest to show you the whole entire process. I know that some of you have been asking for that, so yeah, I hope to see you next week.